What's going on, everyone? This is Mitch from RespectMerchant.com, back again with another episode of the North American Weed Tour podcast. This is season 2. We're on the second year of the North American Weed Tour, looking at legal cannabis across the country. Today, I have a special guest from the home market, Gary Narwal of Diamond Green in Tacoma. How you doing today, Gary?
Hey Mitch, how's it going, man? I'm doing great. How
Man,
you doing, bro?
living life, man. Always a blessing. I mean, I know we know each other, but always a blessing to have people on the show from the home market. I was just running an episode with the guys from MJ Impact, and while they do national cannabis events in Washington, and much of what I've talked to them about offline is just the lack of love we get out here in Washington when you look at the cannabis industry as a whole. Man, we're on an island.
Yeah, man, I've been, rocking with y'all for a minute now, and I love what you've been doing. So, it was an easy yes to come on here, show some love, and be a part of this.
Awesome, man. I know we were just talking. You just reminded me that you guys have been around since 2014. So that's quite a bit. You
Yeah,
said
man.
8 years in the space. So definitely a veteran, especially when you look at some of these markets that have only had, that are licenses have only been open a couple months. You know what I mean? You got eight years on the board. Not very many people can say they got that.
Yeah, we've been in the Tacoma area for now a good amount of time, and it's great that we have such an established customer base that we've had customers from day one still rocking with us, and through all the changes and everything that's been going on in the industry, in the community, and everything. So it's cool to see that people still show love consistently. It's pretty tight.
Absolutely. So I start off every episode with my guests kind of origin story of this, whether that's personal, professional, kind of whatever you feel vulnerable with. So I'm just kind of curious your start with the plant.
So I started back in high school. So me and my boy Zach, we used to live right next door to each other, and we had these little fucking tin foil, um, those pen, like a pen that you write with.
Mhm.
So we take the ink out and put a little fucking tin foil on the front of it, poke some holes in it, drop the weed in there. We smoke out of that shit back in his backyard. It's cancerous to say the least, but that's how we've been doing it. And then ever since then, it was always like a social thing, honestly. And then I got into doing martial arts, and then it became more of a like alleviation thing from pain and all that, all the bodily traumas I would have from Taekwondo. And yeah, and then after that just became, I guess, a way of life in a sense, to where it's just a habit and just a thing we would do, kick it, we smoke, and eventually it moved on to getting into the cannabis space. And I was like, man, this shit is, I know this, I know weed, I know cannabis in a sense. So it wasn't like the business side was definitely tricky, but knowing like, oh, this is good, this is not good, that was
Mhm.
easy. And so, but a lot has changed, and a lot is still changing, which is it's cool to just constantly see the changes and learn from them and go with them.
Absolutely, and that's what we say. Over 8 years, there's been a lot of regulatory changes. So you guys got started in the medical market then?
Not at all. We started
Okay.
in straight rec, and so applied for the license, got licensed, had the location, and opened up, and literally just trials and tribulations, I guess, all the way through, and kind of figured out the market, and just went with it.
Yeah, and I know we were talking about right before we started. Washington doesn't have the MSOs in the way that the cannabis industry always talks about the big bad MSO. These, we didn't allow the out of
Hmm.
state financing, which still some of that still happens in Washington when people move their money
Hmm.
around, right? But, obviously, as being like a family owned store that's been around since the start, Tacoma specifically has seen a couple large retail chains come. So I'm kind of curious your approach to make sure that you guys remain competitive as like larger stores, which obviously come with larger marketing budgets and larger buying power, so they can do a little bit things that a more mom and pop or a single store can't do. So I'm curious some of the ways that you guys have remained competitive over these years, being that single store.
Yeah, I think some of it has to do with our location, in a sense where there's no other dispensary like right next to us. Like unlike on Sixth Ave where you got two or three, they're all kind of in the same space. We get a lot of traffic that goes by, but I think a lot of it is just the feel that we bring. It's just friendship. We're friendly. We want to make sure our customers are taken care of. We don't like it if you get a bad product. We're here to help you. We want to take care of the people that we work with. Bring smiles, and on top of that, good pricing and quality product. If you got to compete, we're not over here trying to overcharge just because we're a small company. We're in line with all the pricing within the market and even less in some cases, just because we like to give our customers that, like, hey, thank you for shopping with us, thank you for being with us from, like I was saying, from day one type of thing. And we like to offer stuff like that, and it's just keeping that friendship and keeping being kind to our customers and make sure they're well taken care of.
And
I
and
think
I
that's
can
what keeps people around.
and I think you've been a testament to that. When I've been at the shop, even when, you're doing some more managerial stuff and other people on the floor, I even see you personally popping behind the camera, making sure you're greeting people, talking to people, asking them about their the previous product that they purchased, their experience for it.
Hmm.
How much is that of just like goes into just intentionally having those conversations with people? Like how important is that with the customer base?
I think for me, it's kind of natural in a sense where I want to know how people are doing. So I'm like, hey, how's your day going? What are you looking for? In a sense where it's like I want to build that relationship, whether it be to make a sale or to not. But I think it's important that we keep that kind of friendship going with our customers, just because it helps them know that they can trust us. And so when they are buying product from us, and we know that they're always going to get some good stuff that they're looking for. And so I think it's important to have those conversations with people, just because they're not they're not data points. They're not just fucking, oh, a $20 eighth, or this person's buying a $35 eighth. These are people. These are our people, and they're coming in here and they're showing us love when they could be at any other store. Not saying that other stores treat them like shit, but we try to do our best to treat them great. And we've heard stories from customers saying that, oh, they felt disrespected over there, didn't
Mm.
like it, so they came here, type of thing. And so, we want to stray away from that type of impact on them. We want a positive impact on them in every case as much as possible.
That personalized connection for sure. How do you approach like product curation in terms of like in understanding that? Like, is it looking at data and just kind of not just the numbers of the data, but like these kind of conversations with people of what they're asking for and what they're looking for? How do you approach kind of the buying process to make sure you have the right products for your guys' consumer base?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always talk first is like talking with vendors and seeing like, hey, what kind of, what is the market saturation with their products? Like, it used to be like, oh, we don't want you in our store because you're in that store. There's always a lot of that going on in the industry, but we're always in the like, oh, you're in that store. Of course, people like your stuff. We want you in our store, and type of thing. And so it's always in that aspect, like how big is the saturation for that specific vendor, and then on our customers asking for this stuff. And if the customers are constantly asking or have asked multiple times, we'll, reach out to the company and bring it in. And then on top of that, it's like if we reach out to a company that we think our bud tenders have liked, our bud tenders shop around sometimes, because we don't have a huge shelf space like some of these bigger companies do. And so, sometimes our bartenders like want to try something different. They'll go down the street to like Mary Mart or something and try what they have, and they'll come back and say, "Hey, we should carry this. This stuff's really good." And so we'll go about that route. And if the bartenders are pleased with it, they're likely to sell it to the customers, and the customers will be pleased with it too. And so, but a lot of ours comes from a bartender. If our bartenders like it. So if our bartenders don't like it at all, aren't messing with it, we're not going to carry it. If our bartenders are on board, and I mean they know cannabis and they love it and they'll smoke it themselves, then we'll sell it. So
Absolutely,
I mean
absolutely.
that's where a lot of the curation comes from, is do our people fuck with it? If they don't, then we're not going to carry it.
And what does that process look like, right? We were talking about this too a little bit offline. Like in this industry, sales reps are, knocking on your guys' door, sending emails,
Hmm.
calling nonstop, right? Like what does it look like for you for a sales rep or a brand to kind of build this not in the store? how do they build like a successful relationship with you? What's that approach look like from your perspective?
Honestly, first the product talks, and so if they got great product, you know, we listen to them. We'll start the we'll have the conversation if we think the product is great. And sometimes the product's great, but the price ain't right. You know, the price is too high. We feel like it's overpriced for what they're asking for in a sense. Not not typically that way, but if the product is good, we have shelf space, we need this price range, we need something in that category essentially, then we'll go about connecting. Um, a lot of the companies that we already have established in our store, they're easy to work with. And you know it's never they're not always bombarding us with stuff. They're not always just like constantly blowing us up. It's always like, hey, how's it going, just checking in, you know, everything moving. And a lot of companies that carry are very friendly and they're nice and they'll take stuff back like, oh, this is getting old, this isn't moving, we don't want that on your shelf either, let's get you some new stuff. And so it's very respectable in that aspect. um, but as for getting like new companies in, it's always about, does your product, how's your product? Is it good? Are the samples fire? Are the bud tenders messing with it? And then we'll go from there.
And then from the experience too, right? Like of buying and even
Mm-hmm.
customer preference, right? Industry cannabis is an agriculture good, right? Like you might have a
Sure.
strain now, you might not have it on the next crop. Um, it might, and especially when you come to vape carts and concentrates, right? Because they're sourcing flower, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the flavors and the strains are kind of consistently changing. Do you notice people coming in and wanting a lot of the same, not just the same brand, but like the same exact strain or unique product that they had previously, or you feel like they're more so teeter to like exploring something new?
I think, speaking from my customer base, a lot of them are wanting what they regularly get. And it's because I think at this point, since our customer base has been like an established customer base, they've already went through the trials of what they don't like and what they like, and they found what they like and they like to stick with that. You know, sometimes we run out of product. It happens. You know, either we're waiting on an order or the company has doesn't have anything for us at the time. And so, you know, we try to get them to something similar. And that opens a new door for them to try something different, which they may move on to that as well. But I'd say it's like 75% are consistent with what they like, and then 25% are like, give me whatever, let me try something different. Yeah. And so, which is cool. I always encourage customers to try because we got so many things. There's so many
Mhm.
products. It's like, you know, just try something different. There's so much out there, and you never know what you're gonna like. You know, sometimes you may not like it, but it's not gonna be bad. You know, it just may not be your thing. So, but it's always encouraged.
Trial by fire. Yeah, I'm always, I know I'm on the
Yeah,
upper tier cannabis consumers, but I'm always trying to get something that I either previous like or know that I like, and then I like to always try and find something, get put onto something new. I kind of I play both fields when I'm buying.
yeah. I think some people are just afraid to be disappointed,
Yeah.
and it happens sometimes. You know, it's that product that you thought that looked great was just not up to par for you, and it happens. You know, there's no. It sucks because we can't sample things out to customers. We can't let them smell anything. You know, the stupid ass Washington laws. But unfortunately, we got to work with the state and the fucking stupidity when it comes to cannabis laws in Washington. But if they could touch the weed, smell the weed, and have more of like more senses before the
Mhm.
purchase, I think it'd be a lot better in that sense to where people are always like, "Oh shit, I'll try this now. I'll try this." But it's like, "Oh, it's in a jar. I want that. I already tried that. I already smelt it. Give me that one again."
Yeah.
I think that's where a little bit where it comes from.
Yeah. No, I totally get that, and that I mean, yeah, it makes sense. That's if you could smell it, that's a good indication of what it's going to taste like, most of the time,
Yeah,
right?
people be
And
grabbing the bags and like smelling on them,
trying to smell through the
trying to
mylar.
just smell it through the bag. It's like, man, I wish I could open it for you, but you know. They'll fine us for even having an open package in the store. It's like
Yeah, and
ridiculous.
And something I've noticed, like in Washington, even more so than other markets, like the window into the jar, the visibility, the bag appeal, if you will, is actually
Yeah,
seeing the product in the bag when we're talking about flower, has been
yeah,
such a big component of Washington. And I know people say it's because of our rules, but like in Cali, it's a little bit culturally different where there's a lot of shit in Mylars you can't see into and it sells off the hype.
yeah,
I think Washington is starting to shift a little bit where like you're starting to see people that used to be almost like a full glass jar with a tiny little label. They're now like not scared to just give a little jar. But do you feel like that's a big point for consumers in Washington when it comes to flower is like making sure they can just see the product?
yeah. I think so, especially because you can't smell it and you can't touch it. I mean, yeah, I guess you don't really want people touching on the weed, anyways. But yeah, I think if you were able to just smell the product instead of having sniff jars that just go old, um, it'd be big. I mean, a lot of people what they do is now just have your sticker on the very bottom of the jar, and they have the logo at the top, and they got a seal that goes a little bit just closing the lid, but the rest of
Mhm.
it is open, so you can see the whole jar, and that's really the only way that you can check it out before and you go off the Bartender's word, and so yeah, I think it's very important. There's a couple companies that we carried. I know when cookies came into Tacoma, they did the whole closed bag thing, and I don't think people were really fucking with that just because Washington just was never about that. And now we got a couple companies that have a completely closed bag, and it's like I can't see it, and so it's just sitting on the shelf. People don't buy it.
Yeah.
It's like you can talk it up as much as you want, but if they don't see it, th- they're not gonna get it. So
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think
like you said a
the
second ago,
visual
if
is
I'm if I'm
important.
if I'm gonna drop 40, $50 on an eighth, right? Like I'm not
Yeah,
trying to open it up and immediately be like, oh man, I bamboozled.
exactly. Like usually when you smell some weed, it usually smells good if it looks good. And so if you can't even see it and you can't smell it, what are you doing? It's just not
Absolutely.
gonna work up here until, we're able to do certain things, certain changes implemented in the laws for us. I guess
Yeah,
some rules.
and I know you said, a
Mm,
lot of the customers are coming in requesting the same thing. When people come in and request a product, maybe it's not a regular who's like, "Yeah, I want what I had last
mhm.
time." Are people asking for you feel like leaning more towards, like, requesting a specific strain, a specific brand, or is it, like, the specific strain by a specific brand?
Usually it's a specific strain by a specific brand, but if we don't have that strain, they're usually cool with what's in that brand. Unless there's some die hard like I want that trophy wife. Like nobody, give me that fat panda trophy wife. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't got it. All right, I'm leaving. And so there's some people that are that way. And it works for them. That's what they need. That's what gets them through their day. I get it. And so, but there's some things that are similar you could try that might have, similar effects for you. But a lot of people, I think it's because Washington is so brand oriented when it comes to products that people know the brand more than they know the strain sometimes. It's like, oh, I want that one strain from Fat Panda with the pink on it. What's that called? And so, oh,
And is that
what's that rainbow joint?
have you
So,
seen that increase as the market's matured? Like, as we've been through legalization, you feel like that's happened it keeps happening more and more where people are just more cognizant of brands?
in a sense, yeah. I mean, there's some, especially with like older brands that have been around for a while. And like a big brand in our store is Doghouse, and
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of theirs as well. They got some good quality stuff, and they expanded into other states as well, I think. But people's like, oh, let me get what you got from Doghouse, and it's always like, what you got from Doghouse, what you have from Panda, let me see what you have from Cedar Creek, and so depending upon the brand, some people know the strain that they want, but a lot of people that know the brand, they're like, what do you have from that brand? Because I
Mm.
fuck with that brand, I'll smoke anything from them, kind of thing. And so I think brands have a big role in trying to stand out and making sure that people, keep coming back to them, and people do.
And then if someone's not aware of a brand and they're looking kinda just at
hmm
all the stuff on the shelf, how much do you think packaging goes into at least, like, them inquiring about something?
I would say a good amount. Like if you got some dope packaging, something bright and nice is going to stand out more to that customer. But then again, it's always like, can you see the product? How's your weed look? That's what I would go to first is how's that, how's that window on that Mylar bag or the visual from the jar to see the product before you purchase it. And I think that has a big impact, like we were saying.
Yeah, and what are some of the ways, with the brand having to rely on you guys, right? Like sometimes obviously you
Hmm.
guys have, vendor days happen and brands can come in and actually interact with the consumers, but most of the time it's up to
Yeah.
you guys, the bud tenders to explain these things to the end consumer. What are some of those ways that brands are educating you guys on like why they're different and giving you guys kind of the information to pass on to the consumer? Or um do you think the whole where like not a lot of people are really taking advantage of that?
I think that used to be a big thing a couple years ago. I think before, pre-COVID. I think that was a big thing where brands will always come in, they come and drop all these flyers. This is our product, these are our strains, these are the effects. And that may have dropped off a little bit, but it has some merit to it in a sense where we build that connection with that brand. Like, oh, these guys came in, they told us these things about their product, and we understand that, oh, this strain is really solid. This strain is across of this and this, and I think that's useful in a sense because then we understand um, like what we're selling. And so if we got some weird ass strain name, but we don't know what the cross is and we can't find it online, it's like, all right, I don't know what this is. How am I going to sell this? And so, ultimately it comes down to just trying the samples and seeing if the weed is good and how it makes you feel. And then you can relay that to the customer. This is how it made me feel, and this is why I like it or why I don't like it. And, certain customers will like it for that reason, others will not. But I think it's important for companies to pursue a little bit education rather than just sending out an email saying, "Hey, this is what we have and this is why it is what it is."
Mhm.
But on the back end, I mean, they got a lot of work to do on their part too, right? They can't just be going around to all the fucking stores and trying to educate people. Some people got to, or companies aren't big enough for that type of work where they just got to be all hands on deck in the back end, to make it work. And
And
it's
do you feel
cutthroat
like
for them too.
consumers on that, right? Like they like brands, but how much do you feel like they care about education of knowing, right? Like we all know like THC percentage, most consumers want the high THC. If you're in the industry, that's not really the factor of
Right.
determining if something's some real smoke or not. But there's been this pushback of like we need to educate consumers, but what I think a lot of people are finding out is like consumers, it's hard telling them that THC doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can get through to some of their heads, but some of them are stuck in their percentages, and so I mean, you could try to educate them. I think it's mostly just informing in a sense, like, oh, this is what this is, and these are some effects you can get from it. And if they connect with that, like, oh, this is what I'm looking for, I'll get this, you know. But a lot of it could be because we don't have too much time to educate. You know what I mean? We got a line of people we got to get to, and so we can't be sitting there explaining every little detail why this is and what that is, and we just got to summarize it for them. And if it sticks to them, it sticks to them. If not, then we'll holler at you when you come back in and try again. But yeah, I don't think a lot of them. I don't want to say that like they don't care, but it's just sometimes they just want their product and they want to go.
Yeah.
And some people do care. Some people take the time to come in. They got the Leafly menu up. And they're like, "Hey, what do you have that does this, this, and this?" I'm like,
Mm.
"Sure, let's see what we can do for you." And so that's cool too. Some people really don't
Uh,
know what they want. Some people just want the numbers.
I always tell bud tenders I'm their worst nightmare, man. I'm gonna come in there and have them grabbing like 30 different things off the shelf, showing it to me, and then I'm probably gonna end up picking something that they didn't even talk to me about. But ask
Well, I
questions.
mean, yeah, that's their job though. I mean, I think people should do that. It's like come in, see what we have, expand your horizon. And so there's a bunch of stuff in there. Try something. So I always tell customers, try something different. So you never know what
And
you
I
might like.
I know you've done a lot of hiring and a lot of training, right? And worked hands on with a lot of bud tenders. You know, we've been getting a lot of questions lately when we were doing these shows about people like, how do I get in the industry? And I always encourage people like you can start creating content, you know, similar to something we're doing right now. That's a way to break
Mhm,
in from the seat, you know, from a seat in your own house. But it's always like bud tenders or sales reps are kind of those like high turnover jobs, right? That if you want to get a bud tender in a specific city, if there's a couple different dispensaries, you could probably, you know, might take a little bit to get your way in. You could do it. What do you look
mhm.
for when hiring a bud tender? How much is like past experience important versus just kind of other, you know, just traditional employee type qualities? Like, what are some of those things you look for when hiring bud tenders?
You know, past experience is always nice because it's, you know, you're familiar with the rule sets in a sense where you know how to check your IDs, you know what brands are what products are what, essentially what prices could be. But honestly, it's the type of person is like, what kind of work history do you have? Are you somebody that just bounces from job to job, or you know, are you a solid person? Are you kind? I look at kindness first. Are you a kind
Mm,
individual? Because I want that to translate over. Because you're working with a team of people and you're working with other human beings that are coming in looking for things. And are you able to be patient? Are you able to be kind and go off of that? The training can be there. Are you a good learner? Are you willing to learn? That's all possible. I can teach you what you need to know. But are you willing to retain that information and apply it? You know,
mm.
some people are able to do that, some people are not. And, you know, you can't tell really until they're in that position doing the job. And that's why I think that's why there's such a high turnover rate because everybody's great during the interview. And then you fucking put them behind the till and they don't know what's what. It's like, you just acting the whole time. It's like, you know, it's like if you could act, you could act like you got it together. But you know, it happens. Some people just can't handle it, and you know, a lot of I think some people come in with the idea of they're just selling weed. Oh, I'm just selling weed. It's like you're doing more than that. This is customer service. This is
Mm.
teamwork. You know, you're learning. You got to educate yourself on products. You need to take the time and figure out what's what. You got to research things. You know, it's not just I'm gonna show up and just sell weed for fun. You need to know pricing. You need to know different product types. You need to know what's the difference between diamonds and live resin and shatter. You got to figure these things out. You can just walk up in here like, oh, I've sold weed on the street before. I can do this. You can, but you're gonna have to expand your horizon while you're in here. And so I think it's important to be open-minded and ready to, take on a task. It's not an extremely hard job by any means, but it's not easy.
Right.
You're dealing with people. You're dealing with all sorts of people that come in. A lot of people aren't high yet, and so they're frustrated. They're getting off of work. They had a long day. They just had a death in the family. There's some there's a lot of different faces coming in. You just got to be kind and empathetic to a lot of people coming in, and just have to have that characteristic.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know, on the state of of products, right? Like something we talk about all the time is what is quality? You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
it's super subjective. I always use the example of like when we're talking about who's the greatest hooper, you know, who's the GOAT in basketball, like we'll never all
hmm
agree. There's 3 to 5 people that people argue about is up there, but nobody ever agrees. So when we talk about what is quality, we all kind of have our own opinion. But I'm kind of curious from your perspective, what makes a quality cannabis product?
Um, First, if it looks nice, it doesn't look like shit. Product is trimmed up nice. It depends on the price point too. Like if I'm buying a $45 eighth, it better look nice. Crystal's got to look nice on it. It is, good bud structure in a sense. Then it's got to smoke good. It's not gonna can't be too harsh on your throat or anything. Make sure you flush your shit right, and it tastes nice. I think when it comes to that, but there's also like we saw the $40 ounce of shake that people just flock to. We sell out of that stuff in a couple days, and we got
Mm,
people are calling it, "Hey, you have the ounce back in? You have the ounce back in?" And so it depends on the company, um, how much effort and time. And this is Northwest Roots here. They're from local from Tacoma, and Brent's a great guy from over there. and he's been supplying us with that stuff for a good amount of time now, and people just love it. But I think it is subjective mostly, but on the baseline, is it look good? Does it smell good? Does it taste good? And is it, get you high? And so you can smoke some shit that looks great and doesn't get you high. It's like, what am I doing with this? But I think, all of those senses come into play before you smoke. But again,
Absolutely.
I think it's very, very subjective in a sense because, like, I'm not gonna sit there and drink 100 milligram fucking little Ray's shot because I know what that'll do to me, and that's not fun for me. But there's some people that come in drinking 2 or 3 of those a day, and so I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like they love it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's different consumers, right? You can't compare a
exactly.
$45 eighth to a $45 ounce, man. You can't.
And I think that's why there's such a big selection. It's like everybody has their own little, "Oh, I want that, I like that cartridge over that cartridge," and I want a super flavored cartridge, or, "Nah, give me some live resin, no flavor, nothing, just I want that shit tasting like smelling like weed," you know? And there's just a wide range of profiles, flavor profiles and people's palates, you just gotta try to, get them all.
Accommodate too. No, I like that. I
Exact
like that.
accommodate, exactly.
That's a great perspective,
Mhm.
man. Yeah, you shed a lot of game on the retail environment right here, man. I appreciate you hopping on here, Gary,
Of course.
on the North American Weed Tour podcast, man. You always been a homie, and appreciate rocking with you. For people out there looking for more information, diamondgreentacoma.com. Anything else you want to plug before I get you up out of here, man?
Nah, man, just follow Instagram. Don't flag our shit, at Diamond Green Tacoma. You motherfuckers always out here just flagging our shit. We're just trying to sell some weed and make the people happy. That's all. And so, no, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for, allowing me up here, and I love what you guys are doing, and I'm behind you. So let's, keep it going. RMR to the moon.
Humbled by that, bro. Appreciate you. This is the North
Of
American Weed
course.
Tour podcast. We'll be back with some more
Yeah.
content. I think more interviews later this week, man. This is Diamond Green. Like I said, diamondgreentacoma.com. If you're in Tacoma, go by, check out their dispensary. Appreciate you, Gary.
Yep.